Hello and welcome to this practice. So we're going to do a little bit more of a kind of restorative yin short practice. A really nice one maybe for before bed, or if you just need some time to kind of lie down and do nothing, but you'd like it with a little bit more of a yoga flair, then this would be for you. So I have got a blanket, a bolster and 2 blocks. I would just kind of work with whatever you've got. A bolster is definitely handy because we're going to be lying over it for most of the shapes. And here I've got the block set up so that there's a little bit of elevation for the chest, which I quite like. If you've got more blankets, I highly recommend using them. You could have one for your head. Actually, I might just grab a few more and show you, but you can have one here so that your head's a tiny bit higher. And then depending on how your kind of lower back feels, if you've got a bolster, see like mine, it's got the drop off here, you can kind of roll a blanket. You might have a smaller blanket than this just to fill in the gap like here, so I've got more of a ramp. And then if you want to get really fancy, we'll come into our Baddha Konasana, which you could either use with other blocks and support your knees, or you can use another blanket, or even just like any cushions that you've got that you can kind of stuff underneath your knees here, so you're really supported in the shape, so that when you come back from here, and I want to be lying like this, if you've got the soles of your feet together, your knees out wide, you don't just want the knees hanging in space, you want them to be a little bit more supported, especially in a restorative type practice, so we're not putting any extra unconscious kind of tension or strain through the hip joint and the sacrum and the lower back. So the blanket that I've got here rolled up, I'm going to take that on top of my feet, and then I kind of tuck it in, and you see how it's resting just to my upper thigh, so my knees aren't actually supported, but I've taken the strain out of the joints that are holding my knees there. If your knees are more of the problematic issue, then I would definitely get either cushions or blocks and kind of put them underneath your knees here. And the other option would be to have another blanket over your body. And if I were practicing kind of at home and not showing you the position, I would definitely have a blanket covering my body. But that's just because I'm quite a fan of blankets, okay? If you're like, that is way too hot, or you don't feel like you need it, then don't worry. Yeah, that's your shape. So once you've kind of set yourself up and bringing yourself into that shape where you do feel comfortable, let your arms kind of rest somewhere they can settle on the floor. You're not doing a great demo of that because of my blanket. I really want my hands to be resting. And then you might just be softening your gaze or closing down your eyes. And just starting to bring your attention into the space and towards your practice. Not needing to force, not needing to really do anything, but finding your way of being here, of maybe offering yourself this gift of a little more stillness and quiet. And then seeing if you can gently coax your attention just toward the natural movement and rhythm of your breath as it is. And so you might like to use the visual cue of the calm kind of ocean shoreline. And even when the water is still, right, there's not much movement in the ocean, there is still the gentle movement of the ocean lapping into the shore. Similar to when we're not overly breathing or overexerting, there is this constant movement, this ebb and flow that is created with your breath. And so if it helps you, seeing if you can visualize the shoreline moving in and out, as if that were the movement of your breath in your body right now. Not needing to do anything or go anywhere. Your breath not needing to be any deeper or shallower than it is. But the whole point is giving yourself the space to arrive as you are right now. And we'll just take the next few rounds of breath as you are in this shape. And just noticing if your mind starts to drift away, and knowing there's nothing wrong with that. But you might like to invite your attention gently back to your body, just to the movement of your breath, that constant movement of the shoreline, as if you were standing at the beach, just watching the water gently come in and go out. As your breath comes in and it goes out. And just taking maybe 5 or 6 more rounds of your breath right here. And gently taking a full breath in, filling up. And maybe a slow sigh release out from here. And you might like to do this again, so filling up. And a sigh release out. And then slowly and gently start to wriggle into your fingers. Just mindfully bringing the movement back for our transition. Into your toes. And then you might use your hands to kind of draw the knees in if they were out wide. And just take a moment, you can push that blanket out of the way if you were using it under your knees here, and just having the feet down, pause. And maybe it's a moment to roll to the side. If you prefer, you might stretch your arms up overhead first. Just take a nice length and reach. And then tucking your feet in, roll to the side. We'll lift up. And then we'll come into a side lying position. So you can kind of have your bolster and everything set up as it is. Feel free to adjust any of the blankets and things that you want like this. And then you can just have your feet out beside you so the knees kind of stacked. And I'm going to lie onto the side of the bolster. Now in my body, I like to have my head the same direction, so like this. But if you find it quite comfortable in your twist to turn your head the other way, it's going to be a much deeper twist, but you're welcome to do that. And then again, you might adjust the blanket over your body. You might adjust where your arms are, make sure they can rest on the floor, or the height of your bolster, of course. But you're basically leaning on one side. I've kind of got my hips stacked. Softening your body and then maybe closing down your eyes once again. Just going to adjust my height because my arms don't settle down enough. And then gently bringing your attention back to the movement of your breath as we start on this side. And if you notice that your mind has drifted away, very gently, kindly, bringing the attention back to your body lying here. This intentional practice of slowing everything down, finding a space of quiet and stillness. We'll just take 5 or 6 more rounds of breath right here. And then maybe taking 1 more full breath as you are. And taking kind of what you need to move out as we'll be taking this over to the other side. You might just be wriggling into your fingers. And really try not to rush or kind of jar the body or even the mind. So you take the movement in this kind of slow, I want to say like sloth-like pace as you peel your way up. And just pausing as and when it feels like a natural place to do so. And then you can kind of switch your legs so you'll roll to the other side. Adjusting as you need to here. Dropping yourself in and make sure you do feel comfortable, right? You can kind of recline at that little twist. And making any of those extra adjustments. Let the arms be heavy. And then coming back to your breath as you rest here. And once again, we'll take 5 or 6 more full rounds of breath from here. As you're ready to start moving, maybe that full breath in, sigh, release out. Into the fingers and slowly, once again, start to make your way up. And then this time as you lift up, we're going to come forward to kind of face towards your bolster. If you feel like in between you need any extra movement, of course you can take that. It might even just be lifting up, coming onto hands and knees and taking a moment to move through a few rounds of your cat-cow. And then we'll come down to set up for a child's pose this time. Again, using the bolster with the blocks, but you can adapt and change your height. I'm actually just going to bring this blanket up underneath my knees. And then, so if you set up from here, you can shuffle the bolster in, you can have the height, maybe you don't have the height. And again, really just shuffle up the props to make it comfortable for you. Now, I quite like to have my head turned to one side in a child's pose, but if you prefer having your head obviously through neutral, then you'll do that. I'll let you know when you're going to change sides. The other thing I quite enjoy here is actually having the blanket in between my belly and my thighs to give a little bit more height. That is very personal preference. You could also have something for underneath between your buttocks and your heels if that's more supported to be in child's pose for a longer time. Let yourself come down. And again, settling from here. So we're now in more of a forward bend. Maybe the intention of your breath is to breathe into the back of your body. You might come back to that sense of the shoreline as if you were standing on the beach. And just imagining the breath just being that smooth inhale and exhale, constantly moving in and out. If you had your head turned to one side, feel free to turn that to the other side. And just keeping your focus. If it's drifted away, that's really okay. But maybe you kind of draw your attention back, just observing the breath, observing your body here. The heaviness, the stillness, the softening. Just taking a few more breaths as you are. And slowly, mindfully, you might just lift up part way, taking a full breath in. Maybe a sigh, release out. And then easing your way all the way up. It can be nice to just take a moment, give your shoulders a little roll back, maybe a gentle twist side to side. And then we have one more shape that we'll take, and this time kind of adjusting the props, we're going to come down onto your back for a supported bridge to finish with. So I highly recommend doing it on the bolster or a more softer surface if you've got it. Yes, if you've only got blocks, kind of maybe put a cushion or a blanket on them to make it a little bit softer. And then as you come down, you might like to have the blanket underneath you. Put that onto your mat like this. Might like a little bit of extra support for your head as well. And then having the bolster, which I'll just bring it to the side. Like this. Come on down to your back. So you're reclined, and then have your bolster in beside you so you can lift your hips up and shuffle that underneath. It's very much resting kind of on your sacrum here. If you want to have a little bit more support for under your head or anything else, you can do that. And then your option would just be to stay with your feet on the floor. Or if you prefer, you can bring the knees in here and actually just let the knees stay bent. And we settle from here. Or you're welcome to extend the legs up. Choosing the shape here for you that feels the most suitable. I quite like having the knees bent, but it's up to you. Allowing your attention to come back to your breath. Your body just adjusting to this shape, softening to the support of the props, to the floor. And just taking a few more rounds of your breath as you are. If you had your legs up, you might slowly start to transition them down or bend your knees. And very mindfully placing one foot at a time to the floor. And we'll move Moving to our last shape being your Shavasana. So if you like, you can just lift the hips slightly, maybe shuffle the bolster in underneath your knees if you're using it. If you prefer to have something on your body or lie in a different shape, you can do that. Otherwise your arms might come up beside you or just resting on your body here. Allowing everything to be flat to the floor somewhat. Maybe a full breath in. And a sigh releasing out. For your Shavasana. If you have a whole lot more time or you're drifting off to sleep, feel free to stay exactly as you are. Otherwise, we will prepare to close the practice, gently wriggling into your fingers and your toes. Again, deepening your breath. We'll inhale. Maybe it's a sigh release out. And then maybe you start to stretch arms and legs. You might roll onto one side, pausing for a moment as you transition out of this pose, out of this practice, and easing your way up from here. Taking a moment just to center yourself, maybe in a sense of appreciation and gratitude for the time you took. Closing with a breath, drawing in, and a sigh release out. And thank you for joining me.